Well, the advancement project happened because we got fired.
From the very first day that I walked through the doors, the thing that was very clear about the Advancement Project California is that it was not your average nonprofit.
You know, we're a bunch of nerds with law degrees is what we are.
I'm not a big Trekkie, but I had a clear sense that this was sort of the Starship Enterprise.
We'll make you an offer that's a lot harder for you to refuse.
I mean, think about it. Somebody just threw you the keys of the Starship Enterprise, and where are you going to take it?
We were not funny. We were anything but funny. The biggest problems 25, 30 years ago had to do with policing.
There was tremendous police abuse, tremendous community tension.
Screaming neon hatred.
Los Angeles was also going through a massive deindustrialization, rising unemployment, the shocks of immigration, schools became overcrowded, and the emergence of crack cocaine.
Grandmothers were putting infants and toddlers to bed in the bathtubs because the bullets would come through the drywall at night.
The police were responding with tremendous brutality.
In the wake of the acquittals of the officers who beat the teeth out of Rodney King.
I felt like the city I loved had been so upset about policing that it had been willing to burn itself down.
I was winning my cases, but my clients were losing their lives. And I realized we have to change what we're doing.
We needed to move from opposition to proposition. We needed to move from suing to solutions.
We had to get a new vehicle. We created the Advancement Project California.
The idea for the organization was in some ways to live into Dr. King's dream of a beloved community.
There are people who have died for us to stand where we stand, and that debt hasn't been paid.
And so the organization, in my mind, was all about sort of fulfilling and moving along the next chapter of that dream.
We're about transforming the very deeply baked in inequities that stem from American beginnings.
The challenges that the founders decided to tackle head on were monumental challenges.
So LAPD was job number one.
And what that meant was that in order to deal with the LA civil unrest, police community reform was key, but it wasn't the only thing that needed to happen.
We had to go in there and find a new way of thinking about it. And that means you're not thinking as just a lawsuit.
This is why it was so important that Connie even had the courage to build relationships with the police to create change from the inside and not just from the outside.
Police have changed. The community has changed its dynamic with the police to a large extent.
One of the things I think has been really significant was to track racial economic inequity if we really wanted to generate change.
Overcrowding was absurd in LA Unified, and it required us to do a $1 billion lawsuit.
In the span of a legislative cycle, they had filed, settled, and passed legislation authorizing billions of dollars for school facilities.
And so we went and got the American military, the Navy, and we found Navy engineers, close to 137 new schools built on time, on budget.
So if you look at Advancement Project California, it's got tremendous accomplishments.
You see clean CNG gas-burning buses, that's the bus riders' case. $4 billion into the bus system that the poor ride.
You can judge the success of an organization not simply by what it did in its founding era, but whether or not it's able to make a successful transition to a new generation of leadership.
John Kim brought a whole different set of skills and tools.
Really doing Advancement Project California 2.0.
We launched a new coalition, a new alliance called the Equity Alliance for LA's Kids to move $250 million into the highest need schools to actually fundamentally change the conditions for those students.
Advancement Project California, particularly in the Race Counts project, has been very intentional about bringing in all sorts of different groups to participate in the design.
John's work has continued to both build upon the work that our original founders had started, but then also deepen the levels of coalition building and partnership building in ways that are absolutely all his own.
There's been tremendous change.
But there's no world in which I think we could go home and say we're done.
So many ways we're still living with the ghosts of the past because our public systems were designed generations ago.
Systems change takes 30 years. And you've got to be there at every step of the way.
I absolutely think that Advancement Project is needed more than ever. It's a gold standard for getting good social justice work done.
You don't need rewards, you don't need awards. You just need to be able to look in the eyes of the kids.
I'm really hopeful that the California they'll be inheriting will be night and day from the California that I was born into.
And I think at the end of these decades, I can say that Molly, Steve, I think we've done a really good turn for our leg of the relay.
I'm extraordinarily grateful to still have the counsel and support of the founders.
You got to pay it forward, you got to hand the baton off, and I hope you have a great run. I think we did.